It was just past midnight when the heavy silence of the mansion was broken by a faint sound. At first, Armin thought it was only the howling of the wind across the vast garden, or perhaps the creaking of the old oak doors that guarded his estate. But then, the sound grew louder. A cry, sharp, trembling, desperate. A baby's cry. Armin, a man who had everything the world could offer, money, power, and status, stood frozen in disbelief. He had grown used to silence in this house, a silence that echoed louder than all the applause he ever received in boardrooms. Loneliness had made its home within his heart long before he had noticed it. But this sound, this helpless cry, pierced right through that emptiness. Slowly, with hesitant steps, he moved to the entrance. The grand double doors swung open, and there, in the biting cold, lay a basket. Inside it, wrapped in a simple, faded blanket, was a baby. Tiny fists flailed, the little face scrunched in distress, eyes glistening with tears. A note was pinned to the blanket, trembling in the winter breeze. Armin's hands shook as he picked it up. It read only one sentence: "Take care of him, he belongs to you." Armin felt his knees weaken. Him? He belonged to him. The powerful billionaire, known for his ruthless decisions and heart of stone, stared at the child in his arms with disbelief. How could this be? Who would leave a baby here, at his door? And why claim it was his? But before answers could form, the cries pierced again. Against every instinct, Armin cradled the baby close to his chest. For the first time in years, he felt something fragile and pure in his arms, something that money could never buy: innocence, life, love. That night was the beginning of a storm that would forever change him. The next morning, the household staff buzzed in panic when they discovered their employer holding a baby in the living room. None of them dared to ask questions, except one. Her name was Miriam, the maid who had worked in his house for over 3 years. She was quiet, diligent, and kept to herself. Unlike the others, she did not indulge in gossip about her employer's mysterious, solitary life. But her eyes widened when she saw the child. For the first time, her mask of calm slipped, replaced with something Armin could not quite read: fear, shock, and a deep ache. Armin noticed. "Do you know something about this child?" he asked, his voice heavy with suspicion. Miriam froze, her lips parting as if to speak, but then she lowered her gaze. "No, sir. I don't know." Her answer was quick, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Days passed, and the mystery of the baby consumed Armin's life. He hired investigators, but no mother came forward, no explanation surfaced. Yet, every moment he spent with the child, whom he named Ayan, pulled him deeper into a world he had never known. Sleepless nights of rocking the baby to sleep, fumbling with bottles of milk, and changing diapers, all things he had once thought beneath him, became moments that softened his heart. The world outside saw him as a cold millionaire. But Ayan's tiny smile, the way he clutched Armin's finger, began to thaw the ice around his soul. Still, questions haunted him. Who had left Ayan at his door? Was the note true? And why did Miriam always look at the child as though she carried a secret too heavy to bear? One evening, while the mansion was cloaked in quiet, Armin overheard faint sobs. He followed the sound and found Miriam in the servants' quarters, clutching a small photograph against her chest, tears staining her cheeks. "Miriam," he said softly, startling her. "What's going on? Tell me the truth. Who is this child?" She froze, her knuckles tightening around the photograph. For a long time, silence stretched between them. Then, her voice broke. "He's mine." Armin felt the ground slip beneath him. His chest tightened as if the walls of the mansion were closing in. "What do you mean?" he demanded, though his voice was more wounded than angry. Miriam's eyes glistened with tears. "Ayan, he's my son. I gave birth to him. But I couldn't raise him. Not alone. I thought I was doing what was best when I left him at your door." Armin's world spun. His thoughts clashed between anger, betrayal, and an ache he could not name. Why my door? Why me? Her lips trembled. "Because you are his father." The words shattered him. His hands shook as if the truth itself was too heavy to hold. Memories of one night, long buried under pride and denial, came rushing back. Years ago, before wealth had hardened his heart completely, he had shared a night of weakness with Miriam. She had been there for him in his darkest hours when his business empire was crumbling, when loneliness had eaten him alive. He had sought comfort in her presence, and she had given it. But afterward, he had locked it away, burying the memory under his empire of riches. Now, the consequence of that night lay before him, in the form of the child he had already grown to love. Armin's anger lashed out. "Why didn't you tell me? Why hide this from me all these years?" Miriam's tears flowed freely. "Because you are a man of wealth and power, and I am nothing but your maid. What place could I have in your world? I feared you would see me as a mistake, and worse, you would take my child away and deny me any place in his life. I had no choice but to leave him at your door, hoping your heart would soften when you saw him." Her confession was raw, cutting through the armor of pride he had worn for so long. Armin turned away, torn between rage and guilt. For days, he withdrew into silence. He watched Ayan's innocent eyes, unaware of the storm raging between his parents. The challenge now was not money, nor reputation. It was trust, forgiveness, and the courage to embrace the truth. The world outside soon caught wind of the scandal. News outlets flashed headlines: "Millionaire raises mystery baby." Rumors swirled about secret affairs, illegitimate children, and betrayal. Investors began to doubt him, business partners questioned his judgment. His empire shook under the weight of whispers. But what hurt more was the fracture inside his home. Miriam, though living under the same roof, avoided his eyes. She cared for Ayan quietly, while Armin struggled to confront the guilt of abandoning her emotionally all those years ago. It was Ayan who unknowingly became the bridge. One night, when the baby fell ill with a high fever, both Armin and Miriam rushed him to the hospital. Sitting side by side, praying for their child's recovery, the walls they had built around themselves began to crumble. Miriam's hand trembled, and without thinking, Armin reached for it. For the first time in years, their eyes met. Not as master and maid, not as strangers carrying secrets, but as two broken souls bound by love for the same child. When the doctor finally smiled and said Ayan was out of danger, both wept silently. In that moment, they understood something vital: their love for Ayan was greater than their pride, their fear, or the barriers society placed between them. Slowly, healing began. Armin apologized, not just for the years of silence, but for making her feel unworthy of standing beside him. Miriam forgave, though scars remained. Together, they decided not to hide anymore. The challenges were far from over. Society continued to sneer. Board members urged Armin to distance himself from the scandal, and even suggested sending Miriam and the child away. But Armin, for the first time, stood firm. "No," he declared in a board meeting, his voice steady. "This is my son. This is the woman who gave him life. If you cannot accept them, then you cannot accept me." The room fell silent. For once, his strength was not measured in money, but in love. Months later, the mansion that once echoed with silence now rang with laughter. Ayan's tiny footsteps pattered across marble floors. Miriam, no longer just the maid, walked beside Armin, not hidden, not in shame, but in dignity. The world could judge, but their truth was unshakable. The baby who was left at his door had not just given Armin a family, he had given him redemption. And in the quiet of one evening, as Armin watched Ayan fall asleep between him and Miriam, he whispered, "You saved me. Both of you." Miriam smiled through tears. "No, Armin. Love saved us." Final message. Life will test us with secrets, mistakes, and the weight of society's judgment. But the truth, no matter how painful, has the power to heal. Sometimes, what seems like the end of a reputation is the beginning of a real life, one built on love, forgiveness, and courage. Armin, the millionaire who once thought he had everything, discovered that the greatest treasure was not wealth, it was family. And it all began with a baby's cry at his door.